So I just want to hop on here real quick and share a little bit of what was going on in my head recently about narcissism and narcissistic traits, and it really helped me kind of understand and unpack what that actually means, what are the subfacets of narcissism, and everyone basically is technically narcissistic in some way. So it's important to understand what subfacets of narcissism, and it's a spectrum of, like, if somebody is extreme on one end and then someone understands that they like how they look, but it doesn't become a detriment, right? So understand the spectrum, understand the facets. So this really changed my life, because also when somebody wants to talk to you about narcissism, you be more well equipped to answer their questions. If somebody just calls you a narcissist, I'd say, okay, what type of narcissism? What is the subfacet of narcissism that you're talking about? Because there's a lot of different subfacets of narcissism, and if people don't understand that, they might just lump everybody into a big category and not understand all the details of what it actually means. So let's go into it then. So with narcissism, there's 7 main subfacets, and I remember it as AS, VS, EEE. So as versus triple E. Okay? So it's easy to remember that because we have authority, superiority, vanity, self-sufficiency, entitlement, exploitative, and exhibitionist. Okay? So if you can remember these 7, these are all types of narcissism, but not everyone has all 7, and not everyone has the degree of depth in each one. So you have to think about, like, okay, let's go back over them. If somebody is authoritative, that means they like to have their way, they like to put their will onto other people, and that's a narcissistic trait. And some people, like, I like to be in charge, but not to a detriment of like 100%. So that's okay. So know where you are on the spectrum. So if you're talking to somebody, are they very authoritative? Okay, so good. Just understand these type of traits. So authoritative. Next, like I said, is superiority. So this is different than authority. Superiority just basically thinks that they're better than everyone else. It can and sometimes is attached to authority, but sometimes it's just not. They don't even have any sense of authority. They just feel like they're better and superior than everybody else. And that can be on a spectrum as well. A lot of entrepreneurs, we have a superiority, a belief at least that we deserve something. But the difference is, if you believe that you're superior and don't do anything, that's, you're not actually going out and putting into action why you deserve something more, right? Next, let's go into vanity, right? That's what a lot of people think narcissism is just vanity. So, of course, I like to look good. A lot of people like to look good. Some people like to look good a lot less than other people, right? And then you have to think about it. Is it detrimental to your relationship to have somebody who is on the scale of narcissism on vanity? Is it hindering your relationship? It is not. It's just being aware. It's just understanding how these things work. So it's not that these things are good or bad. Obviously, on the spectrum of completely at 100 or not caring at all about what you look like, right? That's not good either, right? If you're a 0 in vanity and you don't care anything about how you look, that's not good either. Same with 100, right? You want to be kind of in the spectrum, understand where people are, and understand that's life and everything, right? So when people say you're a narcissist, I'd say, okay, well, so are you. At what spectrum and at what degree and at what specific model, right? So after vanity, we go to self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is also a very entrepreneurial bound, where basically I know this for a fact. I like to do everything. I like to figure it out. There's a good and a bad with it, right? Like a lot of people who are self-sufficient, we problem solve. We're very good at problem solving, but the bad side is we tend to not be good at delegating or letting other people work with us. So that's something that you have to get better at, right? If you know you're very self-sufficient, you're figuring it out. The good news is you're probably going to get far, but the bad news is you have to let go of that to get even further, to get people in to work with you, okay? So this is very important stuff. This is stuff that I had to learn, right? So after that, then we go into we go into exploitative. So exploitative is a very, very bad narcissistic trait, because it's a Machiavellian trait where they're looking to exploit you to get what they want. So this one is probably the worst one that, if you see it, that is a red flag immediately. Exploitative is a bad sign, especially if they're exploitative and a combination of superiority, authority, all these other things combined into one. Yeah, that's when you start getting into like the narcissistic personality, disorders, right? So exploitative, we don't want that, right? We don't want that in our lives. Be aware of it. So that's a bad thing. The next is entitlement. It's the same thing kind of with superiority. If you believe you're superior plus you believe you're entitled, that's a recipe for disaster, because you can feel superior but not feel entitled, and you'll work towards getting that superiority, right? But if you feel superior and you feel entitled, you're not going to do anything. You're basically just going to hope and wish that the world is going to come to you. So be aware of these people, because they're also very sticky, bad people to be around if you're trying to improve your life. And then last is an exhibitionist. This is someone who's very free. They like to have their clothes off. They're very open, very curious. Not that they're good or bad. It's just understanding that we all have these spectrums along our narcissistic personalities. So hopefully I gave you a little bit of an understanding about the personality traits that we all have under narcissism, right? So when somebody calls you a narcissist, or you call somebody a narcissist, you can go a little bit deeper, right? Because if somebody says things and it's just very shallow, I don't take them too seriously anyways, because they didn't take the time to actually explain it or understand it to a bigger depth, and they just kind of meaninglessly threw it out there because they thought it would hurt you, right? So when you can answer somebody and even deeper go into the definition of what that actually means, you'll blow people's minds, and they'll be like, oh, and then they have nothing to say, right? So let's go over one more time. It's AS, VS, EEE, okay? Authoritative, superiority, vanity, self-sufficiency, exploitative, exhibitionist, and the last one, exploitative, exhibitionist, and entitled. So even I forget sometimes. So, but if you can do it, remember. It's good to remember things. Get your brain working. So hopefully this was helpful. Peace. Like, comment, subscribe.